Hi, welcome back. I am back talking to you guys about homeschooling today, and this video will be all about homeschooling styles. So the approach that we take when teaching our kids at home. It's kind of a lot of information. I did my very best to condense it. I really just wanted this to be kind of a general awareness of the different styles, and I'm going to link some pages that will help you further educate yourselves on the styles, that if you hear them and think you're interested, or if you wanted to go through all of the links, totally up to you. So yeah, maybe grab some water or some snacks and let's get started. Okay, so before I dive into telling you guys about the different styles of homeschooling, I wanted to share some kind of just advice or things that I learned along the way and during my first official year of homeschooling. Number one being developing your own style that works for you, your family, your children, yourself, all of that is so important. And understanding that you can go out there and you can find inspiration from other homeschoolers as much as you want, but that doesn't mean that it's going to actually work when it's applied to you and your family. And I believe this is so true about literally anybody, whether you're a parent, an educator, or just a human in general. We need to be able to really develop or improve our skill of observing and being able to adjust. And especially true for homeschoolers, because you're going to go through phases that you're going to constantly need to be adapting or adjusting. So, you're not just going to wake up a day and say that you're going to be a homeschooler and it's just going to be so easy and it's just going to be blissful all the time. You're going to run into struggles. You're going to feel overwhelmed. And you're going to question whether or not you're doing enough or you're doing it right, or all of those things are going to happen. And I'm pretty sure that if you speak to any homeschooler, they're going to tell you that they feel that way at some point. Okay? Um, it's so important to know that when we really start to develop our ability to observe and adjust, that allows us to open so many possibilities, and it really lets us thrive in this homeschool journey and be able to really have a fulfilling experience with this. Okay. um And then the second thing, I really wanted to share this with you, because so many times I have parents that tell me, "Oh, I couldn't do that. I don't have the patience," or they just really don't believe that it could work out for them. So if you are here and you really are thinking about homeschooling your children or your child, and you feel like maybe you're stuck or you're struggling, or it's just hard, please understand that homeschooling takes time. It was something that I really felt like I needed to learn for myself, and I know that I have so much more to learn about it, but I promise you that you're not failing. If you're struggling, that's normal. It's okay to be struggling. It doesn't mean that homeschooling is not for you. It doesn't mean that you're failing. It just means that you need to adjust what you're doing and maybe take a step back and reevaluate what needs to be done, again, for you and your children and your family. I have shared that little bit of advice with you guys. The next part is deciding if you guys are going to be secular or if you are going to want to include religion. When I first started planning out homeschooling, I got a little bit overwhelmed because we are a secular family and I didn't want to include just a specific religion. We don't do Bible studies or anything like that. So I searched so hard to find an approach that was specifically secular, that I didn't have to exclude the religion part of it out. So I would definitely take some time to look into that. I do include a variety of approaches here. So some that do include religion and some that don't, or some that don't have to. And like I said, I think that's important to know before you get started, because being able to choose and being able to determine whether or not you think that you can exclude it from certain approaches, it just helps you when you're planning it out. Okay, are we ready to get started? I'm ready to get started. Okay, so number one, traditional. Traditional is probably something that people most likely think about when they hear homeschooling. And a lot of the times homeschoolers start off with this approach, and it is, I mean, in its simplest form, it is school at home. It is taking the routine and the curriculum and the resources and just applying it to your home life. So you follow the same curriculum, you study the same subjects, you have different textbooks and a schedule for this subject at this time, on this day, stuff like that. It's basically mimicking the school approach at home. And I feel like most people, when they're starting out, they go for this approach because the schools, I believe, are required to give you the curriculum that they follow and also allow you to use the same resources that they use. So the books and whatnot that they use for their curriculum, they are supposed to supply that for you upon request. So I feel like it gives new homeschoolers that experience building their confidence, or experience until they build enough confidence to really break out of that style and move on to something that's better suited for them. Include online homeschooling with this style because it's still basically school at home. Your child is enrolled in an online school. They generally have a teacher who creates assignments for them and they submit them online. So all right, so that's traditional. Okay, now I'm going to move on to Charlotte Mason, and if you have been researching homeschooling at all, you probably have heard of Charlotte Mason. She is considered a homeschool pioneer of the 19th century. She is a Christian-based approach, heavily literature-based. They rely a lot on reading, mostly living books, so biographies, heroic stories, heavy life lessons or morals. In the Charlotte Mason style, the sessions are short, so they like to keep their academic sessions pretty short. They are about 15 to 20 minutes for the early elementary years, and then after the elementary years, or like into high school, they're about 45 minutes long. But they're paired up with going outside for nature studies or journaling, creating history portfolios. They do a lot of work from observing, memorizing, and also narration. So that's pretty much a summary of Charlotte Mason. It's, like I said, it's very popular, and I recommend looking it up. Homeschool style is classical. Classical is, again, a Christian-based approach. It operates on 3 phases. So the 3 phases are grammar, logic, and rhetoric. Grammar going from ages 4 to 9. Logic going from ages 9 to 12, and then rhetoric is 12 and up. And it basically operates as in the first years, that grammar stage is basic knowledge within the core subjects, so math, language arts, science. And within all of the phases, they rely on memory work, public speaking, experiments, and projects. The second stage, you're focusing on reasoning and logic, using the knowledge that you gained from the grammar stage. And then the rhetoric stage is basically putting all of that knowledge into use. So writing essays, public speaking, accounting, engineering, politics, economics, things like that. They do emphasize Latin, so your children would learn Latin as well as the English language. And again, I'm going to link some things below, and I if you're interested in these, I definitely recommend taking a look at the links. It explains kind of what they use for curriculum, because there's a lot of information, especially on the Charlotte Mason and the classical style. Okay, Next style is Montessori. So Montessori is a child-centered approach. They believe that the learning is unique to each individual child. So they really observe how that child is learning and how to approach them and their learning style. They encourage creativity and curiosity, and also self-seeking and educating. They value self-regulation, so they have a heavy focus on being able to control your emotions. Montessori is an approach that really focuses on preparing the children for real life. So a lot of the times the lessons will include real life implications. So math might be baking. The lessons are very hands-on. They encourage learning through learning in a very active way. There isn't really necessarily a curriculum, a Montessori curriculum. It's more about providing resources for the children to explore and use the resources to help them learn in a way that better suits them. Okay. After Montessori, we have unit studies, something that I really like. I like unit studies. It's considered a mastery approach style. And it's basically where you take a certain theme, so let's say weather, and you roll all of your subjects and all of your lessons into one theme. And it really allows, it's great for elementary or like early education, because it really allows the children to dive deep into their interest while learning the core subjects that they need to learn. And it's really considered interest-led. Like I said, I like to do it based on what my children are interested in. So we've done space when they ask about the human body, or volcanoes. We just got a cat, so we'll be doing a whole cat theme, I believe. And I'm also working on we just started introducing history, so I'll be working on an American flag one. So your possibilities are endless with unit studies, but it's simply broken down into a specific theme that you roll all of those subjects into that theme. Okay, now Waldorf. Waldorf is another whole child approach. It's a holistic approach. They believe in teaching the mind, body, and spirit of the child. In the early years, it's mostly play, hands-on learning, no textbooks or workbooks. They just learn from doing things and playing. And then they move on to academic instruction, but it's also paired with encouragement in using their imagination and creativity, as well as being able to manage their emotions. They focus on that a lot. And then they move on to secondary, which is basically a focus on critical thinking, empathy, and community service. They normally work in 3 to 6 week blocks, so they'll focus on one subject for 3 to 6 weeks, and then they'll move on to another subject. That way they're not bouncing around or doing 3 subjects in one day and then 3 subjects the next day and then moving on like that. And they really, the Waldorf style is focused on balancing the amount of seat work or boat work to hands-on learning. Okay, now unschooling. So I just started to recently hear about this. It is very popular right now, but I want to clarify that unschooling is not the same as deschooling. Deschooling is when you have a child in the school system and then you're pulling them out to homeschool. There's going to be a time period where your child is going to want to adjust to not having such a strict schedule like being at school, or if you're doing the traditional style, you'll probably follow the same type of schedule, but there is still going to be an adjustment period from what they're used to doing in school, because home life is different, right? But unschooling is not deschooling. Unschooling is just a very, very relaxed approach. There's no real curriculum. It is specifically child-led or interest-led. um, and they believe in gaining the knowledge just organically. Humans are naturally curious. I do believe that. So your child is going to come up to you one day and be like, Mom, what time is it? And that's when you know that your child is ready to talk to you about time. Or you're going to be in a store and they're going to be like, how much money is that? And that's when you know that you're going to start talking about money. It's a more focus on the process of learning versus the actual act of doing schoolwork. It it really, it emphasizes how your child is going to learn, what they're curious in, and in the natural progression of their education. Okay. And lastly, I'm going to mention eclectic or relaxed homeschooling. So relaxed can kind of fit into unschooling as well, but I kind of paired it with eclectic because you're not necessarily following one specific style. You piece things together. So maybe sometimes you want to do a unit study, or maybe you're a little bit Waldorf, or maybe sometimes you want to do some classical education. So all of that combined makes you an eclectic homeschooler. We are eclectic homeschoolers. Like I mentioned, I do unit study sometimes. I feel like most of the time we're unschoolers. I do have workbooks for the children. I have never actually purchased a curriculum. I build a curriculum based on what I think the children need. So I have a checklist of things that we're required to teach them, as well as kind of what they should be learning by grade. And we go from there. So I just have that checklist and I say, okay, today we're going to work on this, and I make sure that we get enough information in there. So like I said, we're truly eclectic. We do unschooling, we do Montessori, we're a little bit of Waldorf, we're a little bit of unit studies. I prefer it that way. I thought that in the beginning I was going to be that follow a strict schedule. We were going to do math on Mondays, writing on Tuesdays, etc. And that just didn't work out for us. I felt like they were bored. I was bored. Again, I'm going to go back to finding your own style. So you may hear one of these styles and you may go look it up and you think that that's fantastic. And then you realize, a few months in that you're not so happy with it. Keep an open mind. Move on to the next style. Combine multiple styles. Do what you have to do to make sure that this experience is something that's fulfilling both you and your children, because it's their education and you want them to love learning. It's not just about, here's information on the American Revolution. Love it. Learn it. Memorize it. Close your book. Really, I know for a lot of homeschoolers, that's why we don't want them in the school system, because we want them to have that freedom to approach learning in a way that helps them love it and really understand it and really learn it. I'm not bashing flashcards. I love flashcards, but I'm not saying not everything is as simple as holding up a piece of information and saying, learn this and move on. You want them to learn it so that they understand it. You want them to value the information that they're taking in and value the importance of the information that they're taking in. So I hope this video helped you in determining your homeschool style. If you have any questions at all on any of the styles, like I said, there will be links below, but you can also ask. I am more than willing to answer any of your questions about homeschooling and developing a style of your own. And yeah, I think that's it. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye.